be going live right now.
Okay. And where did we leave off?
We were talking about Reiki.
Yeah.
So, if you want to
sure.
try to remember what your thought process was at that point in time, if not, then I completely understand.
It was funny because I was like, man, every time it freezes up, I got my mouth open.
That's hilarious.
Every time. Doesn't matter if it was when it happened to me or what. Every time.
Sorry, guys, if you're rejoining us, we lost power at my house.
Justin did. Yeah.
And it always sucks when it happens, yeah.
It happens.
But we're back now.
We're here. So I was telling Missy, I'm like, you know, my instructor, she told us most people that do Reiki get ordained as a minister. You know, you can go online, do that, you know, become an internet minister, because it's you have some protection because it's like laying of the hands, you know, that priests can do. So you're protected under that because Reiki is not acknowledged in the medical field. You know, it's not acknowledged in the massage field, but it is starting to. I've noticed a lot more massage therapists are becoming Reiki certified. So because they got their license as a massage therapist, they're protected under that. So
interesting.
But that's why I kind of am a little careful about telling other people like the medical, you know, aspect of it. But
that's understandable.
Why I said that's why I go on go under the radar. Now, if they're friends of mine and they know, you know, they'll be like, just be honest with me. I'm like, okay, I'll be honest with you. But if it's someone that I'm not totally know or in that kind of aspect, then I'm a little more careful.
I understand.
Yeah, so
completely.
I mean, I like it. I like healing people, so you know.
I get it.
Fun.
Yeah, I think if you have the ability and the skill to do it, it would be almost like a crime not to, I guess.
Right. I mean, and like I said, it relaxes the people. They feel better after they leave, you know. They feel like, hey, yeah, I can do this a little bit better. And I'm like, good, come back again, you know. Come back next month. So.
Yeah, do you charge and all that, or do you just?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I charge $1 a minute. So, and then I set my timer because sometimes a session, and I tell them I go anywhere up to an hour. So bring $60 with you. You know, I don't normally go over an hour. And if I do, I don't charge for it because I took up too much time. But most of the time, I would say anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour is what I can do and what they can handle, you know. So
fair enough.
You know, I mean, it is like I need to get a chair or something because it is standing for a long time and being over somebody puts a lot of pressure on my back too.
Missy just got a massage table.
I have a massage table.
Okay, so you get a
yeah.
You just get a chair to get up above them.
Yep. So I need one of those. I would like a rolly chair like you see at the doctor's office, because that would be perfect.
I just use an office chair that with wheels on it.
Well, I invite people to come to my house. You know, so I invite them over here, and if I do travel, I do charge extra. I'll be like, there's a little travel fee because you know, so that's why I would like the little, you know, rolly chair, because that's easy to take with you. A big office chair.
Nice. How often do you travel?
Most everybody will come here because they don't want that extra charge.
Right. So. Not very often then.
No, but I will. I take my table, and I've done them at like local paracons, you know, the hippie fest, whatever you want to call it.
You associate hippie fest with paracons?
Well, because It's the Mid-Michigan, the Mid-Michigan Paracon. They do all these little
I don't.
okay, there's in November it's Mid-Michigan. It's Justin Arnold and Kim Dotson. They're the ones that are they put it on. It's
Okay.
big. This year they actually added a day, so it's going to be 2 days. And it's usually it they moved it because it grew so big that they moved it to Soaring Eagle Casino. And they added a day because it's gotten bigger. So
Nice.
but they do all these little events throughout the year, and they call them Hippie Fest, or like they have Witches Weekends in the October. So they do all these little events to help with the cost of that. So I've done them
Nice.
at their Hippie Fest, but it's psychics and
I've been to the
mediums
real
and
hippie fest. I've been
and
to a
then
rainbow
there's
gathering.
that would be cool.
It's interesting.
No, I'm not. Sorry. Sorry about that. And yeah, so they do that. So I've done Reiki there. It's pretty cool. Gotten a table. It was when I first started out. Now I'm making the dream catchers, so that's what I'm going to sell at the Mid-Michigan.
Hey, if you don't like a dream catcher, you need to get out of here, right?
I like them. I like making them.
Yeah, they're awesome. I know you mentioned you had a brush with evil with the Ouija board back in the day. How about, have you had any other experience that you would classify as demonic?
I wouldn't necessarily say demonic, but I always tease Dan Glass, because the first time I was at Hinsdale, I did not ground myself before going into Hinsdale.
Mm-hmm.
And we went with my team, so there was 4 of us that went, and I was not a nice person. No, there was 5 of us that went. I was not a nice person to my teammates at all. I was very mean, and I was mean to my children. And even when we started the tour, they were giving Billy was giving us the backstory of the house. She looked at me and she goes, "I'm worried about you," and I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I just just be careful." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I'm like, "You don't have to worry about me. I'm fine." But yeah, no, I got very, very mean. And the weird part of it was I just felt like flies were all around me and in my ears, and it was driving me absolutely bananas. Even when I was outside, I was talking to my kids, I was screaming at my kids, and I had walked away from everybody, and everybody could hear me yelling at my kids. And I just felt like there's flies surrounding me. And I know there's I've seen the pictures of the flies on the window and stuff, but there was no flies around me whatsoever, but I could hear them in my ears, and it drove me nuts, and to where I became mean. Like I was mean to everybody.
Do you feel
So
like there
mean
was a correlation with the fly phenomena that was already reported there and what you were experiencing?
No, but when I got home, I was so sad, and I was crying, and I knew I wasn't myself. I was like, this. I mean, I'm a crier as it is, but I was over crying, and I was so sensitive. I kept apologizing to my teammates. I apologized to my kids, and I was like, this is and I was super super worried because they have those cameras in each of the room. My teammates were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's and when she sent it to me, I was like, oh my God, they're going to hear me talking about them. And it wasn't me, I was saying mean things about that. Like, I felt like a bad human being. Like, I was saying stuff that's not me. And so I texted Billy, and I'm like, when you said you were worried about me, what did you mean? She's like, that you'd get an attachment. I was like, okay. So I was not myself. She told me what to do because she felt like there was an attachment with me. And I don't know I mean, Ace is pretty good about attachments and stuff, and he didn't feel anything. But I just knew I wasn't myself. So I, did a salt bath. I prayed. I said, certain prayers and whatever she told me different things I could try, and I did them all. And then I started feeling better about myself. And so now it's funny, like when I start getting cranky and stuff, Ace will be like, "Are you going Hinsdale on me?" I'm like, "No." So it'll make me giggle because, yeah, it made me mean. So that was the only other, like.
So do you feel
since I've been in the field that was super like negative towards me, I guess.
So you didn't feel like any onset or any like cues or red flags? You just started acting uncharacteristic?
Yes, just started getting mean. Yep.
And you didn't notice that you were getting mean?
I think at one point I did because I was talking to one of my teammates, and it, surprisingly, we were right under the microphone, and you couldn't hear us a word we said. So I was like, "Oh, thank God they can't hear us." We were right under the camera, but you couldn't hear our conversation whatsoever. So I was happy about that. But at one point I did ask her. I'm like, "You got anything I can take?" I'm not going to say what I took, but you can guess. I was like, I just need to relax. I need to calm myself down. Like, something's wrong with me. So at one point I did kind of recognize that I wasn't being myself, but I didn't know how to stop it.
But you've never experienced anything like that, like even before with the Ouija board experience, that it was not like that.
It was very different. The Ouija board I just had the paralysis, and then I had anxiety for 15 years later whenever I heard the word devil, So, no, I mean, yeah.
It's interesting. It definitely sounds like there was some oppression going on with, the classic definition of oppression.
Right. Yeah,
but
it was weird.
It was
the second time I went with 5 guys and me, and it was completely a whole different experience. I felt calm there, and didn't feel any negative whatsoever towards me. So I'm like, is it because it was my first time and they knew it? Like, what was?
Darren Smith's had commented and said that place is definitely different. Made me a believer in energy and how it does some strange things.
Yeah, I mean and Darren was one of the 5 guys there, and one of the funny things that we did notice was they talk about the and they'll probably laugh at me, but they talk about the puck wedgie. Well, there was a rabbit in the grass, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at that rabbit!" And I started walking towards it, and it literally stood up on its hind legs and put its fist up like it was gonna fight me. And so they're like, "That's the puck wedgie." So it kind of, like, as I kept getting closer, it would, it kind of disappeared and it went into the woods. I followed it. I was like, I'm gonna follow this thing and see what happens. That thing was nowhere to be found. Like, I have no idea where it went. But when I walked all the way around, because you can go up one side, come around, and come down the stairs, and then it came through the other side of the stairs. Like, it was on the stairs waiting for me, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what you are. So we always tease that was a puck wedgie in disguise.
So do you normally see animals stand up on their legs and do things they're not supposed to?
No.
Because you kind of normalized that whole thing.
I was like, that was different. And even, I mean, they're like, wow, that was weird. Like, it looked like it was going to fight you. And I was like, didn't it? Like,
so other people saw it?
Yeah. Everybody saw the rabbit and what it did. So that's why we teased it was a puck wedgie, trying to.
Oh, so rabbits can stand up on their hind legs.
They do, but he looked like he was about to fight me, So,
all right.
Like, maybe it was a shift changer or whatever. What do they call those?
Shapeshifter?
Yeah, shapeshifter. Sorry, that's a tongue tie for me. Say that 5 times. But yeah.
Strange rabbits at the Hinsdale house. I haven't been there yet. It's a bucket list place.
Oh, you gotta go.
You know what?
And I'm
I will
excited
get
they got a
there.
kayak now, so we can go on the middle of the lake
I
now.
saw that.
I'd be
I
like, bye
just it
guys.
it's just it's a
Catch you
little
later.
far away. But I've had a lot of priorities the last couple years.
Yeah.
My daughter has just now gotten out of the whole travel ball thing, and that is insanely expensive.
Oh, for sure. If my daughter was still in gymnastics, I probably wouldn't be doing as much as I do now in the paranormal.
What's
You
up,
know,
Josh Bender? Okay,
you're late
so
to the show, Josh.
yeah. See, my power had to go out for me to get more viewers. That's what's
Right,
going to happen.
right.
All right. So, how about the flip side of it? Have you experienced anything that you would consider angelic, other than doing Reiki, obviously?
Actually, I have. I mean, I've crossed over spirits, and one of and it was an experience at Hinsdale. Um, Aaron was there. John Ward was there. So John and then Jeff Fent. So those were the five guys I was with, and Jeff and John were at the so-called hanging tree that they have there. And
Hinsdale
John,
House, right?
yep. And I was actually falling asleep on the couch, and he came and he's like, "You know how to cross over spirits?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I do." And so like, come with us, and Ace ended up coming with me, and they're like, "We have these five spirits," and he had um, the nanocom uh, from Katie Stafford, and it was the Ghost Brothers one. So it was the one that was on the Ghost Brothers show, and you could hear them asking for help in the nanocom, and so I started meditating, and I could feel them asking for help. And at one point, I told them, hold hands. And I put my hand on Ace's shoulder to get a little more energy from him. And he's holding the box, of course, because it was just us two at the end of the driveway. And I said, hold hands, and I will hold back the evil spirit that was there, trying, I guess, the soul snatcher. And I said, I will hold him back. When you guys go into the light, just hold hands and go into the light. And then Ace was like, let us know when you're there. And what I did, I just threw my Reiki at the evil spirit, and he was getting mad, but I kind of like threw it in his direction. Um, and at that moment, Ace said that he could see our two shadows and five other shadows on the ground in front of us. And they walked, as I'm using my energy and his energy to hold back that spirit. They walked into the light and they said, "We're here." And you heard it clear as day in the intercom, and it was a pretty cool experience there. So one I won't forget.
So you would
And
consider that like an experience with angels?
yeah, because I felt, because like I said, when I do my Reiki, I'm calling on my guides, I'm calling on my angels, Archangel Michael, um, so
So you do that every time you do Reiki, then?
pretty much, yeah. I do have another experience in my old house, which was pretty cool. So my other house, I always felt like there were spirits in there. Always felt like at nighttime I would feel a cool breeze come. I'd smell smoke. I knew who was in my house. Um, I had a gas stove. My stove would start clicking on and off, and I'd tell that spirit, okay, this is not your stove anymore. You cannot cook on it. Um, so our local radio station that I've listened to for like all my life, um, was having a psychic medium come on the show, and they're like, we don't want the people to call up and say, hey, my mom just died, I want to know if she's okay, because I want to hear the real ghost stories. So I sent them the things that happened in my home, the things that I've caught on my camera. And back then I didn't have smartphones, it was the actual digital camera. And so they're like, can you come on our show and talk about it? I was like, I have CPR. And I was a CPR instructor at my workplace. And I'm like, I can't. I'm the only CPR instructor. So they sent out a paranormal team to my house. Weird thing. And I think they had an ovulus of some type. I remember it being a black square box and it said words. Like, it didn't print out the word, but it communicated words. And the box kept saying kids, and I'm like, I'll take care of my kids, because I knew who it was. And they finally said, it's this person. And I'm like, yeah, that's my father-in-law. So we end up in both my boys' room, and she was trying to cross him over, and she's like, he won't go. And I'm like, Dad, I'll take care of your child. I'll take care of my children. Just go into the light. It's okay. Go into the light. And she's like, he's very stubborn. He did something when he was younger that, he hasn't forgiven himself for. And she wouldn't tell me what, but, and I'm like, it's okay, go in the light. And she's like, I'm going to call on the angels. She called on to the angels, and I kid you not, my child's room felt like there was 1,000 people standing next to me. I started getting hot and sweaty, like I was in the middle of a crowd. And she's like, oh, he still won't go. I'm calling Archangel Michael. And she did that, and it felt like there was even a million people in the room. Like, I felt squished. And as he crossed over, the room got cooler again. I could breathe. I didn't feel squished. I was like, that was a cool experience. I was like, I was part of that. So that's another one of my.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like if you are sensitive and you do have abilities, then there's both sides of it, right? You can be sensitive to both sides, and I feel like a lot of the attention has been directed towards the negative, because that's what gets people's attention. But
right.
I feel like it's necessary when you can to acknowledge all the good things that happen, far as
and it does, because like, we're going to Oglays, and I crossed over a spirit there. The last, like, when we heard that female's voice, I kept looking at the wooded line, and they're like, what are you looking at? I'm like, there's a guy out there. He wants me to help him. And I really strongly felt a child had drowned back there, and he wanted me to save that child. And so I asked her, I'm like, I've never been in the wood line. I wasn't going back there. It was too late for me to go back there. And I asked Becky, I'm like, is there a pond or something back there? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so Ace is like, you're not going back there tonight. Tell him we'll come back in a couple weeks, because we were supposed to go back in a couple weeks. And, you'll do it when it's daylight. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of communicated that with the spirit. And we were in the main log cabin of the... I think it's the Kinsley or home, and we were in the main cabin, and they were doing, the guys were talking, and all of a sudden you heard this different voice go, help me, and it was so strong. I was like, okay, I have to go help this guy. And Ace is like, no, you can do it from in here. I said, no, I have to go outside. So Eric came with me. He's holding his box that he built, and he's holding it. And so I started talking to the spirit. I helped him cross over, and the whole time our hair was standing up on our arms. And he's like, do you feel that? I'm like, yeah, that's an electrical charge in this area very strongly. And as soon as I crossed him over, you hear he said bye. You clearly heard it say bye, and then the air felt it, like you didn't feel that static electricity in the air anymore, and the hairs on our arms went down. He's like, that was pretty cool. I'm like, what I want to do? I just want to help people, whether alive or not. I still want to help people.
And you feel like this is a calling of yours since very, very young age?
I do. I mean, because that's just how I've always wanted to help people. It's just something, I think that's why I have such a caring heart, and probably why I might cry all the time, because I do feel other people's energy, And, my sister, I have a twin sister. I know not everybody knows
I didn't know
but
that. I did not know that.
I'm a twin, and she's sensitive too, but she doesn't admit it. She'll admit a little bit, but she's not as open as I am to it all. But she was always the rough, tough girl. She would stick up for me. I got bullied in school all the time. And she was quick-witted, so she would come back with, quick phrases, and then I was like, man, I think about it for 2 days. I'm like, I should have said that to them. That would have burned their bridges, Mm-hmm. But in reality, I didn't like how people treated me. I didn't like that feeling, so I didn't want to do that to them. I could probably tell you what in my head, I could lay you down in a heartbeat. Like, I could fight you physically and verbally. But I don't, because I don't like how that feels. I tell people, I feel it 10 times more than you would feel it. It would hurt me to cuss you out and tell you everything bad about you. It would make me hurt even more. So from a very young age, I've wanted to just help people. I want them to be better human beings.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned crystals and all that stuff. And it's funny because as a kid, I liked collecting rocks. I liked collecting crystals, and I collect seashells, and just thought I was collecting stuff. And it wasn't until I got in this field, I was like, oh, that's why I did it. I had a rock tumbler when I was little. I still have it, actually, from when I was little. It's in my room. I don't use it, but it has stones in it.
You might have some ancestry from Lemuria.
So so it's always been there, It's just sometimes I put it on the back burner. I didn't dwell in it in my teenage years, You didn't want to be the weird. You didn't want to be the weirdo. I mean, we're already weird, but
you don't want to be, but then you are.
I didn't fit into one specific group. That's
me either.
I didn't. You had your popular kids, you had your burnouts, you had your, nerds. I didn't fit in any of those categories. So I got bullied. I got picked on.
Yep. I'm curious. I don't know if you've told me, but how did you find out about Interface Death? Because when we actually first met, I was told that you guys have been following our group and the stuff that we do.
That would be Ace.
How did that all come to be? Because I was never told that story.
Well, we weren't very open in the very beginning of our relationship. We didn't let the whole world know we were together. So he's like, I'd call him. He's like, I'll call you back. I'm watching Justin. I'm like, who's Justin? And he's like, from Interface. So being the person I am, I'm a nosy Nelly. I started looking you up, and I'm like, okay.
Like, who's cock blocking me right now?
So I started, so I looked you up, and I started watching you, and then, you had interesting topics. I'm like, yeah, I like that,
So he would watch the shows, or he would watch, like, the productions we did?
All of it. He watched all, he was the one that followed you guys. I mean, yeah. Ace is well known. Like, I always tell him, like, everybody. Like everybody. You go somewhere with him, he's like, hey, Ace. And I'm like, who's that? And they're like, oh, it's the customer. Like, this is so-and-so, so-and-so. And I'm like, who do you not know?
He was non-existent on Necromancer tonight. He could have told me why he was... Why he was checking out our YouTube stuff instead of hanging out with you, right?
One day, Justin. He's getting there.
For the record, I knew they were together when we met them at Madison Seminary.
Who?
You and Ace.
Oh.
Yeah, you couldn't hide it from Missy, I guess. See, I'm always curious, how people find out who we are and why they follow us, because we're small underground group that does stuff. We were trying to get into the whole documentary film scene. We're trying to push the boundaries of what we our field research could do. But you always wonder how people find out. Is it through word of mouth or what, social media, or what it was?
It was social media. It was Ace. And you know, and it's funny because you guys were at, I think it was Fairfield. You guys were probably one of the first groups in Fairfield, and you were doing a live there. And I was watching you guys, and I was like, I feel like there was people chained to a wall, and it's like a blue room, and then you guys go upstairs, and you're like, well, here's the chains, Hollie, and I was like, see, I knew it. Like it was upstairs, and of course the walls were blue, and I was like, yep.
Yeah, I remember doing the production meeting on that shoot. We were picking up on that right away when we were looking at the photos.
Yeah.
We would we go ahead.
I thought it was interesting. I was just like, that's cool.
We had the most insane REM pod activity up there that I've ever experienced. I'm still baffled by it. If I ever go back, I would love to be able to replicate that again, but I would be surprised.
We had an insane REM pod at Monroe House the last time we were there. We were there last September. We were there for 2 nights, so it was Labor Day weekend. We went, and the one night Ace forgot he had it in the hallway, and everybody was sleeping, and it woke both of us up. And he's like, it keeps going off, and he's like, stop playing with the REM pod, and then it would stop for a minute, and then he's like, can you play with it again? And it would go right off, and there was nobody by it. So it's like, that was an interesting place too, Monroe House.
Yeah, it's definitely
there,
interesting.
I would tell you the first time, like I don't jump and I don't get scared very often in places, but the very first time I was there, it was 4 of us from our team. It was me, 2 other females, and then Ace, and we were in the kitchen. It was just me and Ace. The other 2 girls were out smoking in the yard, smoking cigarettes, and we heard a loud crashing sound that sounded like metal was being thrown against the wall or floor. And I jumped so high, I grabbed him, and he's like, you okay? And I'm like, I don't know what that was, but it sounded, and so we were walking around, and it sounded like the metal cots that were standing up on the wall in the, what they call the library room now, was thrown, and they were still standing in the corner. We looked, and there was nothing out of place anywhere. We walked around looking for anything that was thrown, any metal, nothing. But it was a weird experience. It made me jump.
I understand when you're in the dark and you're at a ledge haunted location. Any sudden noise or movement can definitely get your attention.
But this was not in the dark. This is when we first got there, and
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it was still light outside too, so there was still light coming in the house. But we were in the.
It doesn't have to be dark. It's just
you're deciding. They told us bring a cooler because our brand new refrigerator we just bought is not working. So we bought our cooler. We're deciding where to put it. So yeah, it was interesting.
How many times have you been at Monroe House?
Twice now. Yeah,
what do you think of it?
Twice. Each experience has been different. The first time when that happened, baby Benny got moved. So that was interesting. We had just come down from the doll room, and it's really interesting in there too, because I actually felt like there was tentacles coming up through the ground, like from the bottom. And I know that's the second floor, but I felt like tentacles were coming through the floor. And I've heard other people describe it as vines and stuff, so I was like, that's cool. But I was going through the pictures, and we had placed baby Benny in with all the other dolls, and it looks like in his picture he's smiling in one of them. Now, if you've seen Benny, he's not smiling at all, but in the one picture he looks like he's got a smile on his face. I was like, wow, he's looking at Terry Long doll that's across the room. She's pretty cute. But so that was kind of weird to me too, because it definitely looked like he was smiling in that picture. But we had come down from that room, and they didn't have the couches anymore, so we had to bring our camping chairs. And I put Benny on the black camping chair, and I said, don't move Benny. we'll be right back. We're going to go in the basement. I talk to him like he's real.
Okay.
Like he's real. So I put him in a chair, told him not to move. And we were down in the basement. All four of us were down in the basement for about 45 minutes doing a session. And we were getting, the K2 that Ace was holding. He was trying to get the spirit to hold his hand, and it did. It ended up lighting it up, and he could feel it. And then some cat balls were going off on the stairs, and he wasn't really standing. He wasn't standing on them at all. So there was movement there. And when we came up, we're like, okay, we're going to, if you want us to leave the basement, set the K2 off and the cat ball, set them off at the same time. And they did. So we went upstairs. Got upstairs, and we didn't have any lights on. The only light that was shining in the main room was the, how they have the stuff in behind the glass shelf. There's like glass doors. So that was the only light that was on. And I looked at the chair that Benny was sitting on. I'm like, where's the baby? Now, like, I'm very protective of him. Don't ask me why, but I am. I literally thought somebody came into the house and took our trigger doll. I was like, where's Benny? Did somebody come in? And, there's a keypad on it's locked. There's a key. You have to have a code to get in the house. So, and we would have heard somebody. We were right there. So I looked around, and I saw him wrapped around the leg of the camping chair, the back leg. Now, the camping chair has a dip, so it would have been really hard for, and we tried to recreate it. We tried to knock him out of the chair. There was no way he would have been wrapped around the back leg of the chair. I mean, it looked like he was pole dancing the way he was wrapped around the chair, the leg of the chair.
That's weird.
So he was moved in there.
I think I vaguely remember this story.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, that was my first experience of something getting moved.
Do you think the Hinsdale house and the Monroe house have any similarities?
No, I think they're different. They're definitely different. You hear both stories of what happened. Sorry. Like the Monroe house is deemed the demon house, and I don't know if I want to believe, totally believe that. Do I feel like there's a demon there? Not really. And both times I was there, I didn't feel like it. Do I feel like something's negative? Yeah. Just like I feel like something's negative at Hinsdale, but demonic-wise, I don't know if I truly feel that way about Monroe House. But I've heard all the stories. I heard about your experience there. I've heard of the other stories that Ace has told me about that place when he's been there with his other teams. I've heard other stories from guests that I had on. So everybody has a very different experience in the Monroe House. I think Philip Gibson, he's had, showed a voice recording of a baby crying under the kitchen door, the one that you can't open. So everybody has a very different experience in the Monroe House.
So you would say that the Monroe House has a negative,
definitely a negative vibe.
And the Hinsdale house has a negative, but why are they different?
Exactly. I don't know why they would be different. I don't know if it's maybe we perceive things differently.
But you think they're different, right?
I do. I've heard the stories, I've heard the stories about Hinsdale, the killings and whatnot, and, they have an exorcism there. Cool. But I think maybe it's the way we, like you said before, we perceive things differently. I don't know. Is it pareidoia when it comes to how our minds work? Are you
Well,
know?
the similarities.
Are we
the-
making that energy different too? I don't know.
It's very possible. Like like the Monroe House. I haven't been to Hinsdale, so I can't speak for it, but I would assume that places like that are similar because everybody has energy. Essentially, they do their own energy work to places where
Yeah.
they go. Okay, so I would assume that and that they would be similar in that regard. On paper, they look similar to me.
Yeah.
They both have negative history surrounding them, right?
Yes, they do.
Traumatic
And they're both
experiences,
white. They're both white houses too. So
right?
that's a similarity.
So to me, they are similar, but you may have different experiences there.
Yeah.
But the similarities I see, and I'm only saying on paper because I haven't been to Hinsdale, obviously, like I said. Do we correlate the traumatic experiences people have in those homes to the phenomena that manifest in them? The history of the land associated with, like, the Monroe House has the bones and the remains found under the ground, and the witchcraft and the serial killers and yada yada yada. The similarities to those types of places, like the old.
Well, I could see what you're saying now, because Hinsdale has that history too. So, yeah, I can see now that you're mentioning those similarities. Yeah, I can definitely see them. But
And
I think
I'm not saying they're twins, like exactly the same.
No, right. But definitely I think our experiences are different. You know.
So, we got about 10 minutes left. Before we leave, do you want to tell me what the most active location you ever been?
Actually, for me, it's All Glaze Village. I mean, I love my LOBs. I've gotten stuff out of there, but
How do you spell that?
All Glaze, it's AUELAIZE. And then Village.
AUELIZE.
No, AUG as in George,
Got it.
LAIZE. All Glaze.
And that's in Michigan?
It's in Defiance, Ohio.
All right, let's see if we can bring this up. Is there a golf club there?
No.
It's bringing up a golf club. Maybe it's just a town?
Hold on. No, there's what is there, like 20 some historical buildings from like the 1800s that's been brought to this, so they've been relocated onto this property.
Okay. Like Billy Creek. Defiance, Ohio.
Yeah.
So if we put in,
But they have a church, an old church, a schoolhouse, a post office.
so I'm looking. The Uglies is only coming up with a golf club, but you're saying that it's like this mock village that they've.
Yeah.
And it's called Uglies?
There's Uglies.
Huh. It's not.
Yeah, Ace would tell. There's a freeway right next to it. And
The 24 is a freeway. Go ahead and tell me about why you think it's the most active place.
Because that's where I've seen and hear things with my own eyes and my own ears, and then with my abilities as well. But in the church, we were all four sitting. They were on one side of the church, we were on the other side of the church, and all four of us, with our own eyes, watched this ball of light come down the aisleway, and the guys were like, "Is someone's flashlight on?" We're like, "No." "Is your phone on?" "Nope, that's in my back pocket." So we watched this ball of light go down the aisle, and so Becky started snapping some pictures, and he had a picture right after the ball light went up towards the altar of the church. He started taking pictures, and there was a black figure in the picture kneeling at the altar.
That's crazy.
So somebody had walked in between the four of us, and was kneeling at the altar.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
It shows up as a museum on MapQuest.
Oh, yeah.
Cross Road.
Yep. That's where, yeah.
Ogley's Museum?
Yes.
Okay, AUG. Okay.
Yeah, it is, because they have a military museum on there. They have...
and the cemetery is like right next to it.
Yeah. Yep. They actually have a small cemetery on the property, too.
It's not popping up on Google, so... It's on Roush Road, you said?
Rouse.
Rouse.
Arouse.
Yep.
That's not popping up either.
Hold on, I will send you a picture of my MapQuest directions.
Okay, I was just curious.
But yeah, so they have that, and then in the post office, I kept feeling someone in there, and it was relatively quiet while we were in there, and I said, well, I'm not feeling him in here anymore, so we're gonna go, and all of a sudden you hear, well, I'm here. And we're like, okay, you want to talk now? You're here. And I was asking questions like, are you the postmaster? And you get yes. Like, how did you deliver the mail? And it said by carriage. I was answering questions from that time frame, which I found very interesting. So it ended up being one of the best experiences. And that's when I crossed over the spirit, So it to me, it was it's my most favorite right now.
Found it.
Not saying that I haven't had those experiences other places, but
I knew I should have put village in. That's because that's what they call these places.
Yeah.
So here is Ogley's Village.
And they have a big barn, which is a museum. They have all kinds of the barn is a museum. They have a military museum.
So how did you get into this place? Do they offer investigations there?
Yeah. You go through Underground Paranormal Network with Austin Maynard. We caretake for 6 or 7 different locations, and that's one of the locations that we caretake for.
Okay.
But I like it. It's one of my favorites. Don't get me wrong, I've liked everywhere we've gone so far, so they're good. Good experiences.
These places are always interesting because they move structures from other places and put them into one location.
Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, did the spirits come with, follow their home? So it's cool.
So, is there anything you would like to plug, advertise, inform us on?
I have my own podcast every other Thursday, and it's the Twisted Tales from the Graveyard, Digging Up History. We talk about nursery rhymes, fairy tales, and serial killers because they all intertwine each other. So,
how do serial killers intertwine with nursery rhymes? Because
nursery rhymes all have a dark side to them. They
all of them do?
Yes, they pretty much all come from folklore.
Okay.
And so Brother Grimm took those folklores, those stories, and took them and turned them into something nicer for children. But if you look at, and then a lot of them too have been told because something happened in the history. So something
interesting.
Like, we talked about the Muffin Man. He lured children into his shop and killed them with muffins, which the muffin back in England was like a biscuit.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't like the sweet muffins that we eat here in America, but yeah, he lured children and killed the children because they were annoying him. You know, they were loud and obnoxious, and he couldn't stand it. So, you know, so yeah, that's how serial killers kind of come about.
Wow.
And I learned that as a preschool teacher. I learned that a long time ago, and it kind of disturbed me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not singing these to kids anymore, knowing that they have a dark history.
It makes you wonder why it's a thing.
You know, and there's always a moral to the story in nursery rhymes and fairy tales, you know. But you know, it's kind of disturbing too, because you can almost relate something that's happening in today's world with a nursery rhyme, with something that happened long ago. You know, like history repeats itself. So
Sure. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Holly. It was an awesome show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Anytime you want to come back on, let us know.
Well, you know what I want to do? I want to investigate with you guys.
Why?
because I just think I want to see you in action, not just on a live feed. I want to see you actually work in person. And
There's a lot of cussing.
well, I know it's okay. It's okay. But I just want to see how you interact other than what I see on the live, you know, because
Fair
know
enough.
when the camera's off, you're probably a different way, you know, like we all are.
No. No, this is exactly
But-
what you're going to see.
But I just want to see you do it in person, and I want, you know, I think too, I want to see your energy in person, and I like working with Missy too. It would be cool, you know.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Darren says that I'm mean to people. Is that
Oh,
true, Missy?
well.
Some of the things that you say can be interpreted as mean.
Like, give me an example.
We're
Like,
just
don't-
like used to it. Like you'll raise your voice or you'll get mad, and we're like, "This is completely normal. It's fine." And we
It's
just move along.
it's basically like work when we do the things.
Yeah.
So it's not fun per se a lot of the time because we're
Yeah, but
doing like
I want to see how you like the experiments you do and stuff like that. I want to see that. Not
all right.
just on
Well, hopefully one day that'll happen. I know you get together with a lot of people at the jail, and that's really close to me, the old Licking County Jail.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure Darren can make that happen.
well, there's things in the works that we're trying to get going at the jail that involve me in interface death. So if that happens, that might be one way. Or when you guys go over there, you can get a hold of me, see if I'm available, and I can meet up with you guys.
There you go.
So just keep that in mind. Or if you're in Ohio, again.
Oh yeah, Ace wants to do that too. He wants to investigate with you guys.
Okay, well, it shouldn't be too hard. You guys go to a lot of the same places we go.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
We have like a drive limit is about 5 hours. We've gone a little farther here and there. The last time we went 9 hours, my car, you know.
Well, the Hinsdale
went
house can't be
over.
close to you at all.
It's a 5 hour drive.
Although that ain't very far. I think Hinsdale house is further than me than it is to you.
Yeah, it's 5 hours.
Hell, it takes me 8 hours to get to Gettysburg.
If you were on your way to Monroe House, you could always stop at my house and spend the night, and then go to Monroe House.
Oh, there you go. See? And Monroe House is 4 hour drive, so our longest was Penhurst. That was 9 hours, and that was a whole ordeal because my power steering went in my car. So that was fun.
All right, Holly, I'm going to wrap this show up. If you want to hang
Yeah.
out on the call while I do it,
Okay.
feel free. If you need to go, then you.
Yeah. I got to work in the morning.
Thank you very much.
It
was nice talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. All right, friends. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all those places you can find and follow along with what we do. I know we're kicking things back up. We were on hiatus, but we are no longer on hiatus. We are starting to become more active. The shows are coming. We're going to start filming for our next documentary this fall, so stay tuned for that. Please extend your thanks to the patrons you see on the screen. Without their support, we definitely would not be able to keep doing what we're doing. If you are interested in checking out our Patreon, I will link it on Facebook and on YouTube for you real quick, so you can check those places out. Or check Patreon out, rather. It's not a place. It's a website. And that's where I'm going to leave it. You guys are awesome. I know I had a power outage and there was a little break there. But those things you can't do much about. Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to have Rob Hernandez on the show. So stay tuned for that. Hope to see you there. You guys have a good one. Have a good rest of your week. See you next time.